is a sucker born every minute.
I believe we're all aware of what a scam is. It's been a concept for centuries. From the days of snake oil salesmen, if you have a nice pitch and are a good spokesperson, you can sell anything, no matter how useless it actually is. Anything to get a quick buck. Even when they're called out and have been proven as scams, some gullibles still buy them and they continue to exist to this very day. As the years have rolled by, scams have evolved with the times, becoming more and more shady and complicated as time marches on. This also includes being integrated into the internet.
Congratulations, you won. Congratulations, you won. Congratulations, you won.
Since the internet was created, people immediately started finding ways to scam suckers online. Shady links and fake giveaways were very common, and they've only evolved online since then. Overpriced pieces of plastic, gift card scams.
Do not redeem! Okay? Do not redeem! Do not redeem! Do not redeem the card!
It has become easier than ever for someone to scam people out of their money. But some of these tales have been kind of buried by more popular cases, and I thought it'd be fun to dig into the past and talk about some of them. Now, just a heads up, I am covering topics that are 100% undeniable scams. This does not include things that didn't live up to expectations, or products that were poorly delivered due to circumstances that were circumstances. These are undeniable, uncut, and unclean attempts to take people's money without ever having any intention of giving them something. Glad that we established this, and now it's time to get the scam train moving. These are... You want to find scams very easily? Just try Kickstarter or Indiegogo. These two websites are infamous for having so many projects just completely fall apart, and some projects are just get-rich-quick schemes. There are so many scams on these websites, entire YouTube channels have been made just based on how many scams there are on these. I could really make an entire video with just Kickstarter and Indiegogo scams, but today we're going to focus on just one incident. One that, surprisingly, hasn't been talked about as much as it should. It involves every American's favorite topic: food! Well, the food, of course, comes from Japan. There's a type of meat from Japan called Kobe beef, which is considered a delicacy over there. It's one of the most expensive types of beef on the planet, as it's made from a very specific type of cow in Japan and produced and marbled in a very specific way. You're going to be paying out a pretty penny for it if you want to try it for yourself. Kobe beef was actually banned in the US for a short time in the late 2000s to prevent the spread of a foot and mouth disease going on in Japan around the time. The ban went on for like 3 years until it was lifted in 2012, but shortly after said ban was lifted, someone was quick to try and make some cash off of it. In early 2013, a company called Magnus Fun Inc. popped up one day, located somewhere in California, and they made a Kickstarter. Kobe Red 100% Japanese beer-fed jerky. They advertised on their page that this was the first ever beef jerky made from Kobe beef. The page goes into a story about the creator's tear-jerker origin involving Kobe beef, tells you how the cows are beer-fed and massaged and how it makes for better overall beef, and how they need your money to get this beef jerky out to the masses. It shows a few pictures of the supposed product, and also text exchanges where they apparently gave out some samples at some music festivals. Kobe beef jerky. It sounds appealing to a lot of people, actually. The bag of rewards were basically just packs of different amounts of beef jerky, and a t-shirt. Who the hell would wear a Kobe beef jerky t-shirt? Whatever. The Kickstarter was asking for around $2,300, and they ended up getting $120,000! Damn, people on Kickstarter love their beef jerky! Yeah, surprisingly, this Kickstarter looked to be a gigantic success. They annihilated their funding goal with ease. The Kickstarter creators were ecstatic about this, as this was now one of the most successful food-related Kickstarter projects on the entire website, and they would give constant updates about their progress as the money continued to keep rolling in. But as time went on, some red flags started popping up. There was next to no info on the people running this Kickstarter. Yeah, it was a company called Magnus Fun, and they were located in California, but that's all we got. No names, no faces were attached to any of this. The story the Kickstarter tells us, we don't get a name. Not a Billy Joe Bob or a Jane Doe or anything attached to the story. We do not know who is running this campaign. And while we're at it, we don't get to see much of the project itself either. Their Kickstarter video is basically a slideshow of some beef and jerky, and some graphic design is my passion. We don't get to see the process of the so-called beef jerky, or a meat plant, or not even a single fucking cow was shown. The only cow I saw was my reflection in the monitor when it was over. There is not much to go off in this entire Kickstarter besides a few pictures and text messages. Since you already clicked on this video about scams and you know what you're getting into, I'm going to go ahead and spoil the truth. There is no Kobe beef jerky. The creator never had any actual intention on giving out beef jerky. They're essentially funding money out of people for a product they'll never deliver, and they don't have any names or credits on here so they can run away with the cash and it can never be traced back to them. And $120,000. If they pull this off, this could be the biggest heist in Kickstarter history. There was just one problem. Whoever was running this Kickstarter and all the money they were pulling in started to get a little cocky. Due to the roaring success of this Kickstarter and the attention it was getting, while the project was still raking in money, a group of amateur filmmakers making a documentary called Kickstarted approached Magnum Fund CEO, whoever that may be, and wanted to include the Kobe beef success story in their documentary. And the CEO, who probably had the smuggest expression you could possibly think of on his face, said, "Yeah, sure, I'll be in your documentary." Yeah, they actually thought it was a smart idea to agree. They even made an update about it on their Kickstarter page. And remember, the beef jerky is a lie. It's never going to be distributed because it doesn't exist. During the process of trying to get info for the documentary, the people at Magnus Fund started acting suspicious. The documentary people started asking for possible interviews or pictures of the Magnus Fund crew or how the beef jerky production was going, and Magnus Fund never answered or delivered anything to them. They quickly caught on that something wasn't right here and decided to do some digging, and they found a slew of things that didn't add up. The email address that Magnus Fund was registered to was linked to a site that was completely dead. They contacted a place they claimed to give out samples at, and they confirmed there was no Kobe beef jerky there. All those text messages looked to be completely fake. Everything added up to the entire thing being a sham. They contacted Kickstarter and told them of all their findings, and on the last day of the Kickstarter, with the scammers being inches away from their 120k, Kickstarter shut the entire thing down before it could finish. Those 3,000 plus people had their money saved from disaster. The documentary guys all gave themselves a pat on the back for stopping almost the biggest heist on Kickstarter ever, but the scammers were fucking livid. They weren't going down without a fight. If they couldn't have money, then nobody could. After the entire ordeal seemed like it was over and done with, the creators of the Kickstarter documentary put up their own crowdfunder on Kickstarter and started getting money coming in. Some of that money included big chunks of change by very strange accounts, with weird names like 4Q, Quentin TTO, and Bart Dobson.
Dodson, we've got Dodson here!
They were putting upwards of 10 grand, who would then call the entire documentary garbage and then pull the money shortly afterwards, causing issues with the campaign. It didn't take long for the creators to find out it was the Kobe beef guys, absolutely seething that their life was ruined by these guys. They contacted Kickstarter and had the accounts blocked, and that was that. The documentary eventually came out a few years later, and the Kobe beef scam was quickly forgotten about. And to think, they nearly got away with it. They would have ran off with $120,000 just like that. If only the smug pricks didn't try to show off by trying to show up in a documentary, then they would have gotten away with it. But history is what it is, and Kobe beef was just another failed scam on Kickstarter. I want to have a nice variety of scams in this video, so in this one, I'm going to be treading some old water. I've already talked about this one very briefly in one of my first videos, but it was only briefly and I didn't go into too much depth. Then I barely knew how to edit. So here we are again. Steam has been known to let pretty much anything on their platform. It's an issue, and it's been an issue for years now. Not so much talked about anymore, but a few years back, everyone was complaining about Steam's quality control. The most low-effort, asset-flip garbage was allowed on the storefront. While I wouldn't call most of these scams, I mean, they're borderline. They're really just bad, low-effort products in my eyes. Yeah, they're complete dog shit just shoved out for a quick buck, but you're at least getting some sort of product with no strings attached. There's not really any actual deception tactics involved in most of these. And some of them, however, there definitely are. In 2015, a game was uploaded to Steam, and it was called Journey of the Light, a little indie darling that just popped up and was advertised as one of the hardest games on Steam. In this game, you play as a rolling ball of light, and your goal is very simple: to find a way to the next level. You roll around, and you can make these street lamps go on and off, and that's about all you can do. You are given no instructions on how to get to the next level, except a vague hint before level 1. Not being advertised as one of the hardest games on Steam might actually be true, because to this very day, nobody has figured out how to get to level 2. People tried switching these lamps on and off for hours, and some even thought if you just rolled off the map you would go to level 2. Nope, nothing worked. The game was so cryptic and vague, people were beyond stumped on how to beat it. Unable to find the solution in the game itself, people started looking for alternative ways to get to level 2. Some people started digging into the game's files and found the different files for all the different levels, and there it was, the coveted level 2. Using different resources, these same people found a way to get to level 2, but just using the level files only to discover, hey wait, that's the title screen. What the hell? And then it was discovered, all of the level files either opened up to the title screen or opened right back up to level 1. So in search of the rest of the game, they discovered this is the rest of the game.
Dad, when do we get to the ride?
This is the ride! Yippee!
The entire game is just this ball of light rolling around this field. There never was any other levels. It's basically just one of those tech demos where the character runs around in an empty area, only sold for money this time. Not only did people find out that the rest of the game didn't exist, they also found out the only person to have achievements for getting to the next level was the creator of the game. So things are looking pretty suspicious right now. The game started to get flooded with bad reviews and refunds, calling the game a scam, which the creator wasn't very happy about. He promised he was working on patching and fixing up the game, but still remained as cryptic as ever on how to progress. He said he might put some more hints in the game's trading cards, but in order to get the game's cards, you had to play for more than 2 hours, which would not make you eligible to refund the game anymore. His goal was to make people waste enough time for the 2 hours to be up so they couldn't refund anymore. The general consensus was the game was a flat-out scam, and word quickly spread that the game couldn't be beat because there wasn't any more game to beat. Everyone at this point knew the game was never made to have anything else. Eventually, after enough people reported it to Valve, they shut the game down and gave out refunds to everyone who bought, and since then, the dev hasn't been seen since. So any numbnuts can go and buy a game off the asset store and try to flip it around to sell it for profit on Steam, but this was a meticulously planned attempt to scam people by making them waste time trying to solve a puzzle in the game to progress, when in reality, the game has nothing else in it. It's a wild goose chase until the refund period runs out. Honestly, not gonna lie, it's a pretty smart, yet pretty scummy scam. I've never heard of someone making a game like this, to slap something together in an hour or two, make some cryptic crap up, and then purposely waste the customer's time so they can't get a refund. Well, it happened, and it's mostly been forgotten. But that's what I'm here for, aren't I? I'm technically bending the rules for this one, as it's not really a scam, but it has massive amounts of deception in it, so it's borderline a scam. One of the sad tragedies of modern gaming is the microtransaction. I'm not going to go on some rant about how gaming sucks now, or some crap you've seen 1,000 times in clickbait thumbnails, but too long didn't read, microtransactions suck for the most part, and are usually a way to nickel and dime the hell out of you for minor stuff, like skins or hats, usually just cosmetic stuff. But sometimes, these minor things end up being quite a pretty penny online, and not only have corporations taken advantage, but average people have found ways to make profit off of these and create their own black market with these things. Just look at the hat market in TF2 or the skins market in any online shooter. This stuff can potentially sell for thousands for some digital skins on a knife. It's insane. But I'm not here to judge people for how they want to spend their money. Well, maybe a little bit. But I can only imagine how some of these people will feel if these companies ever shut any of these games down. It won't be pretty. Probably the worst thing to come from any of this was the slew of gambling sites. Yeah, you know, gambling is illegal until you're 21 for a reason. You can become addicted to it and it can ruin your life. The thought of breaking it big is very appealing to a ton of people, but it almost never happens. And people have made gambling sites for these online games fill the microtransactions, but instead of doing it for money, you're doing it for some shitty skins. We're focusing on a peculiar incident involving one of these gambling sites, focused on CSGO. a website known as CSGO Lotto. CSGO is a very popular online shooter, never played it, etc, etc, but there are many YouTubers who have dedicated their entire channels to it and have amassed millions of subscribers because of it. It is not my cup of tea, but it is to a lot of people. CSGO Lotto, at a typical glance, doesn't look any different from any other CSGO lottery site, because it really isn't. There's nothing really special about it in any way, except for the marketing. You see, a lot of these gambling sites would get promoted and shown through YouTubers, gambling their ad revenue money away on them, and then get the big dopamine hit of a big win, which they would then soy jack about. That's what the people come to see. In 2016, the biggest CSGO YouTubers, Team Martin and Pro Syndicate, would shield this site all the time, with big clickbait names and thumbnails on them, getting big numbers and wins. This would net them hundreds of thousands of views, and when they get the big wins, you want to go get the big wins too. It's all psychological stuff.
Oh my god!
Oh my god.
What was in it?
Oh my god, let's go!
CSGO Lotto was shown quite a bit on their channels and all the wins they would get on it. They just really liked it.
Thank you very much for watching. Make sure you leave a like, rate, and subscribe. Check out the site down below, and I will see you guys next time. Yes!
But a YouTuber named Honor the Call did some digging and found out they left out one little important detail. They are not sponsored by CSGO Lotto, surprisingly. Yeah, they don't need to be sponsored by CSGO Lotto because they own it. Honor the Call found out who registered the company and who runs it, and it's Team Martin and Pro Syndicate. They were using the site like they were just any other person and gambling on it, never bothering to tell their viewers, oh, actually, we own the site.
I just unboxed a knife, alright? I've been unlucky all night. I've lost so many knives in CSGO Lotto. So many, alright? And we're watching Tweaky here with $1,200 on the line. But
now, as if I shouldn't have to tell you, this is shady and despicable in more ways than one. Pretending you're playing by the same rules as everyone else to use this system you own is all kinds of despicable. It doesn't matter how much money they spend on this, they could spend hundreds of thousands of dollars on it, and it wouldn't matter, it's just going right back in their pockets anyway. Since they own it, they could also have a backdoor to the gamble system and make it more in their favor. They can basically do whatever they want with this system that the normal consumer doesn't have access to. The website itself seems to be legit. It's not really a scam, but the marketing strategy for it is all sorts of shady. Not only is this immoral, but in the United States, you must disclose if you have an affiliation with a product. This is marketing deception at its finest. And once news broke out about this, people quickly picked it up. E-celebs at the time made all sorts of videos on it, and word quickly got out about the crap Team Martin and Pro Syndicate were trying to pull. Now with their careers and their website potentially on the line, they rushed into damage control. T. Martin tried his best to lie as much as possible to get any blame off of him for basically trying to deceive his audience.
CSGO Lotto is a company. T. Martin Enterprises is a company. CSGO Lotto pays T. Martin Enterprises for promotion. T. Martin Enterprises promotes CSGO Lotto.
He claimed he didn't own the site until very recently. Those videos were basically just a test to see if his audience wanted that type of content. He allegedly even threatened and blackmailed the people making videos about the situation.
Faking something like that and kind of being deceiving like that would be one of the worst things you could possibly do, and I promise you guys, that's not who I am. No matter how much these smaller guys who like to tear at the bigger guys like to believe it, I'm a normal person. Like, I'm a decent person with a conscience and with honor.
But finally, he cracked under all the pressure and put out an apology video. And it checks off every single apology video stereotype. In fact, this might be the poster boy for awful apology videos. A sigh of annoyance. Never admitting you actually did anything wrong.
I do not condone minors under the age of 18 to use CSGO Lotto. This is and always has been a clearly stated policy available both in the terms of service as well as the initial sign-up page on the website. I've seen a lot of people focusing on the under the age of 13.
Because we have the cloner selected, the shader effector is already added to this cloner. So now we can select our shader effector. Now there's a couple of tabs we're interested in. Shading and parameter. Let's look at
Shit, strange to be here.
Look at shading first. First thing we need to do is choose the channel. Now, we placed our tiles texture on the color channel. So let's choose color. Once we do that, it asks us for a texture tag. Well, let's give it the texture tag we created. Okay. Now, if you're sharp-eyed, you'd notice that the clones were modified when I did that. But anyway, let's go to the parameter tab. Scale was what was changed. Scale is the default parameter selected, but it's not the one we're interested in. Let's check visibility instead. All of a sudden, the visibility of the clones is controlled by the texture. Just for emphasis, let's go back to scale. Now, if we change this to -1, changed. Scale is the default parameter selected, but it's not the one we're interested in. Let's check visibility instead. All of a sudden, the visibility of the clones is controlled by the texture. Just for emphasis, let's go back to scale. Surface, but we have very little, if no control of owner, and we get cubes all over our sphere. Of course, they're too large. So I'm just going to scale them down. So we have clones all over our sphere. Going back to the cloner settings, we can see that the default distribution is vertex. Let's change that to surface. That looks a lot more like what we want. Let's change the clone count to 1,000. So now we have a lot of for this. So I did a video on that. When I edit the tile shader, a little bit larger, like maybe 200%. Once we do that, it asks us for a texture tag. Well, let's give it the texture tag we created. Okay. Now, if you're sharp-eyed, you'd notice that the clones were larger, like maybe 200%. There we go. So what we'd love to do is use this texture to control where the clones appear. Let's do that. In order to do that, we need to select our cloner and add a new effector. We're going to use a shader effector. Now, because we have the cloner selected, the shader effector is already added.
section of our privacy policy. All this section states is that we do not knowingly record information of children under the age of 13 years old in compliance with the COPPA Act. This has nothing to do with and does not mean that we condone minors under the age of 18 to play on the site.
And of course, gotta have that cute animal on standby to get those cute brownie points.
I have no idea how I'm gonna record this video, dude.
He wouldn't be acting smug for long, however, when the two of them got smacked in the face by the FTC. After a while, they were both able to eventually settle with the FTC and are now forced to disclose any future business ventures, or else. CSGO Lotto was shut down, and that was that. They both ended up walking away in the end, but this incident will probably haunt them for the rest of their lives. T. Martin abandoned his old YouTube channel and still makes new gaming videos to this day, and Pro Syndicate has now moved on to become a vlogging YouTuber. You can see they both live luxurious lives due to their careers and no doubt all the money they made from all their ventures. And one of those was the failure of deception that was CSGO Lotto.
Oh my god!
Do I have a doozy of a finale for this video? A lot of you are probably aware of who Darkside Phil is. You know, the best gamer on the planet, our one true king, the most consistent content creator on the internet. He has provided all of us with hours upon hours of entertainment, and he loves us.
Thank you, you fucking worthless humans, for the views.
However, despite being the most lovable teddy bear on any platform, Phil has a number of detractors who would love nothing more than for him to fail. You can find dozens and dozens of these slanderous videos, which I will not stand for. But if it weren't for these detractors, I wouldn't have any content for this video, so I'll let it slide for today. Phil, like the rest of us, is on a quest for love and compassion with a significant other. He's had many a lover over the years, many girlfriends. A special note, Panda Lee is not Asian, that is all. In 2017, he broke up with his longtime girlfriend at the time, and the man became pretty lonely after that. Nobody knows of Phil's love life after his breakup with Panda Lee, but in late 2017, something interesting popped up. On the website Kiwi Farms, a mysterious woman, no seriously, her name on the website was Mysterious Woman, she pops up and makes a thread claiming Phil owes her several $1,000s. For what, you may ask? Well, sit back and let me tell you. This woman claimed to be a high-end professional escort from the Netherlands, who claimed that Phil had signed a contract to lease herself out to him to be his girlfriend for a bit. She apparently visited Phil 3 different times, and she became his girlfriend for those times. But she left and was expecting Phil to pay up. And according to her, Phil did not pay up.
Shader effector.
And hell has no fury like a woman unpaid.
Shading and
she
parameter.
came to the farms to spill the beans about all the stuff Phil allegedly did.
First
And if
thing
he
we
did
need to
not
do is
pay the
choose
money
the
she was owed by January 15th, she would leak everything they did together.
So let's choose
She
color.
started ticking down the days
Once we do
until
that,
Phil
it
paid
asks
what
us
she
for
was
a texture tag.
like it was an omen.
Well, let's give it the texture
Now,
tag.
when she came forward
created.
about this, the people who have been
Okay.
documenting Phil for years
Now,
at this point were
if you're sharp-eyed, you'd notice
the thread
that
was split
the
on if
clones
this was
were
legit or not,
modified when
and
I
of
did
course started asking
Anyway,
for proof.
let's go to the parameter
And over
tab.
time, the account started
Scale
showing off
was
the
what was
receipts,
changed.
including their
Scale
own
is the
business site.
default parameter
Oh
selected.
God, I
but
feel
it's not
dirty
the one
going
we're
over
interested in.
research. Here
Let's
you
check
can view all sorts of
visibility
details
instead.
of her business, what it takes to get in touch, her requirements and her rates, which included stuff like the 2-week special for $125,000. Jesus Christ, we haven't even got to the actual scam part yet, and I'm already feeling ripped off. Why would I need to pay you $100,000 when my hand is free?
All of a
Phil knows
sudden,
what I'm talking about.
the
thread
visibility
even tested
of
if
the
she could speak
clones is
Dutch,
controlled
which she
by
showed
the
she
texture.
spoke it very fluently, so she seemed like she was legit. After showing off all the evidence she was who she said she was, people started listening to what she had to say, and was basically there to shit-talk Phil until he paid up. She caused enough of a fuss to eventually get Phil's attention and the attention of his detractors. Immediately they started telling Phil to pay what he owed, and Phil himself started to deny everything. He claims he didn't even know who this person was. He told everyone it was just some catfish account, it wasn't real, and he stuck to that story the entire time.
So they fabricate this story that I hired an escort
to come visit me during my Christmas break. I paid her thousands of dollars, or owe her
just for,
thousands of dollars.
emphasis.
Apparently, I don't even know what the full story is because I'm not really following it. I don't deal with this stupid shit. But you may have noticed the past few days, just idiots coming in here. It's all the fucking same gullible morons who believe everything because they're such morons. They've been coming here saying, "Oh, you owe money to your escort. What about your escort?" These people are fucking idiots. They actually believe this. That's the sad part, that they're actually so gullible.
Completely
they
white
actually
areas.
believe this is fact.
The clones are tiny.
My God,
so
you
tiny
people are
that they
stupid
disappear.
if you believe that shit.
Black
He
areas,
was saying on his streams, on his forums,
large,
and in his Twitch
100%
chat.
scale.
This entire
We can
debacle
tweak this a
wasn't
little
real.
bit by going to the
As the
shading
clock-
tab, and we can modify things here. Let's invert the alpha, and we can see that the exact effect has been inverted. This in itself should be pretty useful. But I'm going to show you how we can take this one step further. Let's imagine we had this model of the Earth cone that I have over here. It would look... So let's grab our sphere, add our cones to the cloner, and in our cloner, let's change it to object. Once we give it an object, we can change the distribution to surface. Now that our distribution is pretty random, let's do 2000. We need to tweak our playback a little bit. And in the shading tab, we can change it to color. drag our population density texture tag into the slot, and then go to parameter, uncheck scale, check visibility. Now, we saw that we had to check the invert checkbox last time. And if you look here at the very dense populated areas, that's happening again. So we just go to our shaders shading tab and check the alpha box. Now we have these spikes or tomograph to scatter people all over the earth, or icons representing people. The distribution of the people were uniform. So we can apply this population density map, and we can see here really densely populated areas versus areas where there's no people, the deserts, the rainforest, the Arctic. Anyway, we can use this exact same technique here. So let's grab our sphere, add our cones to the cloner, and in our cloner, let's change it to object. Once we give it an object, we can change the distribution to surface. Now that our distribution is pretty random, let's do 2000. May need to tweak our playback a little bit. That may have been ambitious for my video card. So now we can do that same thing. We select our cloner, we go to our shader effector rather, and then in the shading tab, we can change it to color, drag our population density texture tag into the slot, and then go to parameter, uncheck scale, check visibility. Now, we saw
universal logo will be made in few years. I mean minutes. Huh.